Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. It's KLOS New and Approved. I'm so excited about our guest tonight because, I've been a fan since their very first record came out here in the United States, and their latest album is amazing. Power Up, we've been playing so many tracks off the record. So all the way from Australia, I'm excited to welcome our guest, Angus Young. Angus, good to see you again, man. How are you?
Good to be here when talking with you, Matt. Yeah, very good. You know.
Yeah, I got to tell you, one great experience I had with you, Angus, which you may or may not remember, but when I was working with MTV and I was in the music department, but also, hosting the rock shows, we had a dinner one night, you and me and Brian and a bunch of the other people, and I took you in the corner. I said, hey, Angus, you got to tell me some Bon Scott stories. And you were so great. We had such a good time. We talked about that for about a half hour. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I think I remember. It was in New York, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Absolutely. It was. Yeah. I will never forget how cool that was. Well, listen, I just want to say it's so great of you to take the time. I know that, Australia has been, opening up more than other parts of the world right now. They're starting to have live music again, which is really exciting.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I guess Australia's been lucky in that sense. They've been able to deal with a lot of the viral thing quick. It is good in that sense. And we're as a band anyhow. We're hoping that in the world, it all gets to open up soon, and everyone can get back to back to what we do best. Yeah, and for us, that'd be great because we may then be able to get out and do some live shows, which would be really cool for us.
Yeah, it would be amazing. I would absolutely love to see that. Angus, talk to me about making the record Power Up because, I know that even though Malcolm had passed, you guys did start working on songs together. Malcolm is, of course, credited with co-writing. Tell me a bit about that. Was that like literally right after the last tour that you started working on those songs for Power Up?
Well, basically, yes. We come off the road from Rock or Bust, and I just felt, I should, maybe, start doing something. And I just thought, it'd be good to, there was a lot of tracks that Malcolm and myself had worked on, and especially around the Black Ice time when we'd done that album. We had so much, we'd been in the studio for a lot of years, and we had so much work that we had done together, song-wise, and so we had a lot of really great material, and I just thought, I'll go through a lot of the songs that what we had, and I would use the guide, what Malcolm had really wanted to be on the album, because I thought, I'll pick the ones that he really felt were the great AC/DC tracks, and so that was the approach I took.
Yeah, well, it came out really great. I mean, to me, the thing about AC/DC is, the minute you hear it, it's an AC/DC record. And that's something that you guys have always, I thought it's brilliant that you've always strived for as a band. And, thinking about it right now, Angus, this week is the anniversary of High Voltage, which is mind-blowing to me. So what can you remember about those sessions? When you go back in time, do you remember what recording that album was like? Do you have memories of it?
Yeah, actually, we recorded it here in Sydney at the time in a studio that our record company used to have, which was Albert Studio, and I remember at that time, everything, it's all coming together and getting the songs for it, and in Bonn especially, getting his lyric stuff. So it was a very unique, and for us a unique experience too, to be able to do on that, first album, and so it was a fun time, and everyone was really excited about and doing it and making sure that what we had represented us. So and it kicked off really well, I thought. Yeah.
Absolutely, and led to a string of incredible rock albums, some of the best ever, which I think is great. Talk to me about working with Brendan OBrien on the last three records. You've worked originally, with with George and Harry, obviously on the earlier records, your older brother, and then with Mutt Lange. And talk to me about when you decided to work with Brendan. Was that something you said you would give it a shot? Did you listen to any of the other work that he had done when it came time to pick him as a producer, Brendan OBrien, since he had worked with, Rage Against the Machine and Pearl Jam? What was the thing?
It was really, we'd been putting our stuff together again from that album, Black Ice, and it was Malcolm who suggested. He said, because he was talking to some of our record people, and and he was saying, we're hoping to, start recording soon, and he was talking with them, and it was, he said to me, what about this guy, Brendan OBrien, And I said, I don't know anything about him. And he said, well, he knew a bit about him. And he was the one that suggested him to work on the album. So I thought, okay, we'll give that a shot. And, and from the meeting with him in the first time, we met him in, actually when we were going to record it in Vancouver, we met him there in the hotel. And he just seemed, he said, okay, he was excited about hearing the material that we had. And so it was good sitting there working with him. And he seemed very, he seemed like a good hands-on guy, he was somebody who kind of, he listened to him and he'd go, I like that track. I love that. And he just seemed just as much excited about working with us as we working with him, and it was good to start. And you could hear from the first song what we had recorded, and you could hear it back, and you could hear straight away his his production and his style of doing it. So that, and it was really it was good, because that's always the proof when you hear something for the first time and you go, is this working? And, and that definitely, came across that everything was working and firing up, and the track was sounding the way you wanted it. Yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. Now let's talk about your nephew, Stevie, stepping in, who is there now, of course, since Malcolm had passed away. And now it's like 3 generations of Youngs. It's amazing when we look back at the Easy Beats, right, with George, and then with you guys. Tell me a bit about Stevie and when you decided to make him a member of the band. And was that a very natural decision to do that, your nephew?
Stevie had Malcolm in 1988. He wanted to get himself rehabbed. He was, he had a very troubling time with alcohol at the time. So he wanted to get himself totally cleaned up. Because he said, if I'm on the road, it's too tempting. And because we were still touring, he said, what we should do is he would get my nephew Stevie, who had been playing in bands at the time. He said he could do the role, and he said we'll get him over, and he can see, watch me and see how we're working live, and so he got Stevie over, and it was a case of him kind of, watching Mal and getting, all the chops he had to get together. And when we came to, to tour, I think we were off to the US. We were doing dates, and Stevie was filling in. And we did a little bit of rehearsing, and it all came together really well. So, and touring, he did a great job. So it was pretty easy for us to, I think, he was the first one that popped in my head that I thought, well, Stevie could probably do the job because he's got, the same rhythm chops as like how Malcolm played. And he'd grown up. That's how he'd mirrored Malcolm. Malcolm was his kind of inspiration when he was younger, first picking up guitar. He was plugging into what Malcolm done, that rhythm style. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he's done such a great job of it.
Yeah,
You know,
yes, he did.
it's amazing looking back, I got to say, Angus, to the whole story about how, Bon had seen Brian perform with Geordie, back in the day. That story is just truly one of the most amazing kind of rock stories. The fact that Bon had really endorsed Brian, while he was still alive. Can you
Yes.
can you tell me a bit about that story? I know you told me about it. You and I were talking about it years ago, but I
Yeah.
just love to tell that story again because it's so fascinating.
Yeah, well, Bon had been in a band that had toured in Britain, and they were opening for the band Brian was in, which was a band called Geordie. And anyhow, they were gigging away, and as Bon told the story, he was saying, he was listening to like with Geordie performing and listened to, like the Brian, and then he heard this screaming and really great. He said it sounded great. It sounded like Little Richard was on the stage,
Yeah.
He said this guy howling and yelling and whatnot. And then he saw the guy hit the floor, and he was on the floor and writhing him about. And then Bon said, but what he didn't know, Bon thought it was great. It was best actor he'd seen in a singer in a long time. He said, but what he didn't know was, afterwards he found out, that an ambulance come and they had to hoof him away, and Brian had some attack appendicitis.
Yeah, his appendix burst on stage, right? That's amazing. That's when he was in pain.
Yeah. So, but Bon thought it was part of the act. He thought, this guy's incredible,
Yeah.
And he was still hitting these high notes.
That story is so great. I just love the way that came full circle, endorsing Brian back then. Because, like I know that you'd said earlier that Bon didn't always give out the compliments unless he thought a lead singer was really great. He wasn't that, he would really have to like somebody. So it's amazing how that came full circle. So
Yeah.
I love that story. This record, we are so excited when you get back on the road to tour for this. Is that the plan when this pandemic opens, Angus? You think you and the guys will come out on the road again, and we'll see you over here in the States?
Yeah, well, we would, before the pandemic, that's what we were gearing up for. We had done some video stuff, and we'd also, at the same time, we had done a lot of rehearsing because Brian was trying out this new technology, which he was super happy with. And so we had done some rehearsals, and we were raring to go. We thought we'd be able to do some shows early. And but because, we had a little break, and then, we got to various spots in the world, and then, the world went into a massive lockdown, and that kind of delayed everything. So, but we're hoping as soon as everything, we get the okay and it's all safe to go, we can all get back and get on a stage and play in front of people again. And
Well, we can't wait to see you when you do, Angus. I'm very excited about it.
I'm the same. I can't wait to see it too. I'm getting itchy. I know Brian is also very itchy about doing it.
Yeah, I know you guys. You guys are just such a natural live band. That's one of the things you do so great and always have. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time, Angus, to hang out with me today from Australia and come do the show. It means a lot. Always great to see you. The band sounds as phenomenal as ever, just so you know. I love the new record. We all do over here at KLOS. And we look forward to seeing you when you come back to the States.
Okay then, Matt. Yeah. Good talking to you again.
Yeah. Great seeing you again. Always, Angus. Take care now. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt.
The great Angus Young from AC/DC right there. The latest album is called Power Up. You've been hearing it here on KLOS. And right from Angus's mouth, they will be touring the States again for this album when things go back to normal. It was so great to catch up with him. I want to thank you all for listening to and watching KLOS New and Approved. I'm Matt Pinfield. We'll catch you next time.